Hey, good morning. Today is Friday, March the 22nd, 2024. The time now is 7:32 a.m. I want to make a brief video or give a brief talk about the importance of investing in young people and how when young people are invested and given purpose in life, okay, the right purpose, they blossom and society as a whole blossom. But with failure to invest in young people, they become destructive to themselves and they become destructive to society as a whole. And being a Liberian and an African, being a black person, is something that I've uh, uh, formed a theory on, something that I've acknowledged, or let's say this is something that I've observed for the past few years. Now, being a Liberian, whether I lived it or I heard stories, my heritage is rich in terms of the rich cultures in Liberia and Africa, the rich languages we speak in Liberia and Africa. Even our English language is unique. Whether we are talking about the everyday Liberian vernacular or the everyday English that the educated Liberians speak, okay, at home or when they go out to meet their friends or in the professional sphere. But I have observed that there are one way that you can uh, invest in the youth and give them a sense of purpose, which in this case is beneficial to the youth, or you can not invest in the youth but give them the wrong sense of purpose, which in this case they become destructive to themselves and to society at large. For example, uh, Liberia, we had 36 years of turbulence, okay? 14 years were years of all out war. We are known to have one of the most destructive or the most painful civil war in history or in modern history. It is very interesting that despite the rich culture of Liberia, as it is the case in Africa and much of the global south, people tends to remember us, to know a lot about us based on the pain and suffering of our civil wars or of our unpleasant years. But and again, I do have a Sierra Leonean background, and Sierra Leone is also known much recently for the destructive Sierra Leonean civil war. But I learned, or I basically was able to make a conclusion to form a theory by analyzing the situational aspects of both wars, especially relating to young people, most especially men. If you want to construct a better society, you invest in young people, especially men. Now, in America, in the school system, they're talking about uh, coming up with initiative to help young black girls, okay, young black people. I remember one of my colleagues basically he stressed the importance of investing in black boys, not just in black girls. Yes, it is known that when something destructive happened in a country, women suffer the most. One thing he stressed, the importance of investing in black boys as well, because I've come to acknowledge you can have all the educated black women in the world. If the black men are not educated, or if we do not try to prep young black men to become, well, young black boys to become good black men, then it is a problem for the society, for the community. Because the truth is, If you look at in any ethnic or racial group, yes, people will marry outside of their group, but in many cases, the most majority of people married within their group. So the change that we make in our young black boys' lives or in our young men's lives, okay, the better it is for our daughters and our sister. If we see a young black man, okay, and basically kick him away, we should consider the possibility that that young black man who we shun away, who we kicked away, might end up meeting our daughters or our sister and messing up their lives. And we are at the point and at the time when stupidity is given prominence. So the nonsense that a young man is doing that we may consider as bad to our daughters and our sister, that is cool and they like that, the bad boys. But I just deviate a lot. I just want to show an example of the fact that investing in young people and investing in young men, if you can invest in young men and you bring the positivity out of them, you are able to maintain a very peaceful, stable society. One way you can construct a positive society, and one way you can destroy a society. If we look at the wars in Africa, in this case, I'm focusing on Liberia and Sierra Leone. Of course, the situation is universal in Africa, in much of the world, if not everywhere in the world. Young men, couple of things that I've learned through observation. We all want to be like our father or our big brothers, or that one male figure in our family that we idealize. We want to be like them. That's one thing. Two, every young man wants money. Every young man wants to have a girlfriend, to hold a girl's hand, a young lady's hand, to kiss a young lady, to fantasize about kissing a young lady, to be able to walk on the street and with your friend to say, I have a girlfriend, to in the nighttime or the later evening, you in the corner and you embracing a young lady. It is the case all over the world. I know in Africa, whenever you go on the road to the junction, you see everybody hanging out. You see the ladies selling their roasted corns, roasted cassava and things. You see young people, young men and young girls, sometimes in their early teens. Sometimes our family members will send us to the junction to get something, whether we go and buy kerosene, we go and buy food or whatever. And oftentimes when we do that, we might see some young adult men and young adult lady in the corner squeezing. That is an image that I know many of us Africans are used to. But every young man wants to have a girlfriend. Every young lady wants to have a boyfriend. There comes a times when the whole idea of I have a boyfriend or I hold a guy's hand or I kiss a boy or I kiss a girl, you know what I'm saying? Or I took a girl to the movie or I'm in school, I know this girl that I like. We fantasize. It's a feeling. When we reach certain age, we start experimenting and we fantasize about the feeling of having a boyfriend or having a girlfriend. It is natural. Now, for young men, in addition to having a girlfriend, they want money. With that money, they can buy the new shoes or they can buy their Walkman or headphones, however you call it. They can buy new clothes and look good in the evening and on holiday or every day. Young lady, okay, in our case, in Africa, we black people and many, in much cases, people of color, whether you're talking about India, Indian people in Asia, or Africans, okay, our body type is very unique. Now, for Africans, we are probably the most unique. Our hair is it's interesting to work with. So if you are a black woman, you know your hair is very strict. Your hair demands a lot. Okay, whether to wash it, whether to braid it, and braiding hair. Okay, hair time in the African community or in the black community. Period. It's a social gathering. It's a social event. I watched my sisters, my mom, my aunts, my grandma taking hours to get their hair braid. Whether they are talking about plaiting their attachment or just braid the hair free like that by itself, it takes hours. Every woman, and in this case, black woman, want to be able to go fix their hair, want to be able to buy the latest lipstick or lip gloss or eyeshadow, want to buy the latest shirt, the latest blouse, the latest shoes. It's natural. Not only to look good for themselves, but for that boy who they like, or that man who they like, or those boys or men who will be checking them out. Now, how do you construct a better society? Provide one educational job. I'm sorry. Provide one education and employment. If you educate the youth, in this case, we are talking about young men. Those young men, when they are educated, they become the educated father that will give birth and raise the next young men and women who will eventually inherit society. But also, with being educated, that is the needs to be or to act or to seem or to look professional. But even that is the long run. Let's talk about the immediate. When the boy is young, you provide little employment for them. They are happy because with that employment, they have a sense of purpose, a positive sense of purpose that is beneficial to society. That young man, he will fantasize every day about the Friday that he's going to get paid and the things that he wants. Today, we are a very materialistic society, okay? But even if you take the materialism from it, we as men will fantasize about getting paid, buying what we want, and maybe taking $1 or $2 to our girlfriend, okay? Or maybe buying one or two flip flops, slippers, or shoes for our girlfriend. Or if we are mid-age adults, we go to the bar, we buy drinks for our girlfriend or for some ladies we want to impress them. It's natural. With education, with jobs, society is beneficial because in this case, the young man has a sense of purpose. And it's the same thing with the girls, the women, the young lady. You give them education, they become the positive professional that society needs, or the educated, positive wives that will give birth to the next generation of men and women whose societies will impart learning to and who will eventually inherit society. I must put that there. And educated men will respect themselves. Men with a sense of purpose in terms of their education and their employment opportunity will respect themselves. In addition, they will respect the women and the girls, their girlfriend. That's how you build a positive society, by investing in the youth in terms of education and employment. If the youth, in this case, especially the men, if the young men are educated or if they are provided with employment opportunity, they will be reluctant to engage in the stupidity that was our turbulent times in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, and in much of Africa. If I have a job as a young man and I'm able to make living, my fantasy daily is I cannot wait to get paid, get my next salary, my next check, so that I can go buy this and that I need. So that I can take this girl to the movie. So I can have a time where I'll be with this girl and impress her so I can get a kiss from this girl. It's natural. He has a sense of purpose. A young man with a sense of purpose in terms of making his money and getting his education, whether free or cheap, will not engage in stupidity. But then how you destroy society? We've seen this throughout Africa and much of the world. Give them gun. You want to destroy society, do not educate the youth, give them guns, give them drug, and tell them a bunch of nonsense. We see that in Africa and much of the world. These young men who had no job, these young men who, some of them were babies, some of them were just in their pre-teens or early teens, were basically taken from their villages, from their family, from their moms and dads, giving guns and drugs. At that age, as a young man, you are fantasizing about women, you are having feeling of what it means to be with a girl, with a woman. But also, you do not have a job, you have no sense of responsibility, but then you are given the highest and most dangerous symbol of power, which is gun. And you are told this and that person is your enemy. What these guys are doing then is going out. One, they act on two things. One, they are acting on the power dynamics, but also they're acting on feelings. With the power dynamics is that I have the guns, I can do whatever. I'm going ahead and kill anybody. Even if a dog sneezes, I'm going to shoot him. But then I'm acting upon my feeling as a human being in terms of being with a girl, being with a woman. So what they are doing is going out and raping young ladies and raping women, shooting dads, shooting big brothers, shooting uncles, and or rape their sisters or their daughters or their cousins and aunts right in front of them. This is a story that is very popular in Sierra Leone and Liberia and many places around the world and in Africa where civil wars happen, where the rebel kids, many of these kids were very much young. In the African context, you don't even crack your teeth when an adult is talking. In Africa, when we wake up, the first thing we have to do is brush our teeth. If you wake up in the morning in Africa and you go say good morning to somebody, you might get slapped. You are required to brush your teeth first, brush your teeth and wash your face, and then you go around saying good morning to everybody. And you start getting ready in terms of taking a shower and dressing and going to school or whatever the mission of the day is. In Africa, everybody is an auntie, an uncle, or mama or papa. Every adult have or has authority over you in Africa. As we say, it takes a community to raise a child. It is worse in Africa that some adult in the neighborhood seeing you doing bad things than your own parents seeing you doing bad things. Because that adult seeing you doing bad things gonna go gossip. It means your mom and dad don't raise you right. In Africa, brother, sister takes many roles. I can refer to you as a brother or as a sister in terms of you being my black brother or my black sister. Brother, sister can also take the form of sir and Mrs. Sometimes you don't know that person title. You don't want them to feel superior over you. Brother, sister takes the role based on how the sentence is used. Brother, sisters, auntie, uncle can also take the form of just respect to someone who is older than you. Maybe you don't know their age, but you just want to give them respect based on their reputation, based on their occupation or whatever. That is something I'm going to clarify. But let me go back to what I was talking about. In Africa, we are demanded by custom, by culture, to respect adults at all costs. But during our civil war, you see young people who would not dare talk to adults in disrespectful way during peacetime or disrespecting adult during wartime because they're carrying guns, shooting adult, slapping adult, cursing an adult, placing adults on the gunpoint as they rape the child, okay, the daughter or the wives or the aunts or the mother of that adult. That's what happened when you fail to invest in the youth and give them a sense of purpose in terms of education and employment. But then you give them guns. With that guns, they become destructive to society. With that guns, they go about killing everything, shooting everything, burning everything, and raping the sisters, the daughters, the mothers, the aunties, the grandmothers of society. So it's like that. When we, as Africans, whether we are talking about African intelligentsia, we are talking about African professionals or African institutions and governments. And I am talking about African institutions and government in terms of those who are at the highest points of their independence. That means they are independent from outside influence. Okay? When we are able and willing to invest in the youth, we will enjoy Africa. Look, we have about 60% of the world's arable land. 60% of the world's land that is good for farming. That means we can produce to feed Africa. We have a very young population, which if we invest in them now, it is going to be a positive and enjoyment season in the future for us as we get old and for the young ones who we are birthing now. When we invest in the youth, we are going to be able to create, to breed new waves, new forms, new kinds, new types of leaders, especially political leaders, entrepreneurs, business leaders, business tycoons, academics, those in intelligentsia, and even those who are in the public sphere of various sorts. I want to put that there. In terms of the not investing in the youth, it is the same thing as the girls. If we do not put money and education behind the girls, if we do not give them a free and or cheap education, modern education that enables them to compete among themselves throughout Africa and with the outside world, they are prone to be humiliated and disrespected. We see foreigners going to Africa and just disrespect the hell out of us. I remember my first trip back to Africa, it was 2017, after having been out of Africa for over 17 years, over 16 years. I was in Morocco and I was very surprised by the amount of foreigners who were at the airport, who were in Morocco. But it was also interesting that the vast majority of people who I saw at the airport in Morocco were black Africans. Morocco is a hub for African aviation. But in one of the line I was disrespected. And when I got to Liberia, that was a European guy. I remember him boarding a plane with me in Morocco. He disrespected me, called me some names. I was getting so excited because at that point I was so happy returning home, and my black pride testosterone was in the highest level. I was about to go off on that guy, but then something just snapped. I let it go because this guy referred to me as monkeys, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I let it go. But when we do not educate the people, especially the youth, they will be susceptible to disrespect and humiliations and destabilization by outside forces. Okay? The truth is that every mom and every dad wants to educate their sons and their daughters. In terms of daughters, we know that if our daughters are educated, they make good choices, they require they will require good men, good boyfriend, positive boyfriend. The same thing with the boys. If our sons are educated, they'll require good woman, good girlfriend, positive women, positive girlfriends. Both are equal in this case. The truth is, a people who is not, okay, when the people are not educated or when the people are not provided with opportunities in terms of employment, and opportunities of various sorts. When the people are not prepped or taught or provided with positive reason, okay, uh, pos- positive possibility, positive purpose, they are susceptible to manipulation by both internal forces and external forces. In case of Liberia and Sierra Leone and much of Africa or all of Africa, the internal forces that manipulate our people are mostly the elite, the business and the political elite, the political leadership. Many who may begin to promote, whether we're talking about tribalism or religion or ageism or the various kind of division as a means to hide the fact that they are incapable, they are engaging in corruptions or in other unprofessional activities, other activities that do not benefit the people or the country. When the people are not provided with positive reason, with positivity, or they are not taught to uh, seek positive purpose in life, they are susceptible to external manipulation. In this case, we are talking about the NGOs that come to our countries in Africa with the justification that they come to help the people. Our people are open to external manipulation, such as the various governments, political, social, academic, financial, economic institutions out there that may criticize the government or promote or project themselves as God or gods on earth and promote and project their culture or their history or their government or their countries as being better than the rest of us. In many cases, you see Africans, especially young Africans, looking at the outside world, in this case, Europe and America, to be the example of what is good and positive, while at the same time denigrating themselves, denigrating everything that is African as negative, unprofessional, and unsophisticated. When the people begin to gain respect for themselves as individual or respect for themselves as a people, as a country, as a nation, as a society, they are not easily manipulated by outsider or insiders. I'm talking about by external forces or internal forces. This is kind of like the case. This is like the case for China. The Chinese state, the Chinese nation, the Chinese people, their national esteem, national self esteem has increased significantly, tremendously over the past, 30 years or so, 40 years or so. China has accomplished so much that the country is at a point where it is now rivaling the United States and all of the West, whether together or individually, to the point where Chinese government is talking back when the United States or Western countries talk. Chinese government is calling them out when they say something or do something that the Chinese government or the Chinese state or the Chinese institutions or the Chinese people, based on their culture or their history, find to be offensive or humiliating. They will call anybody out on it. And this is also the case visiting China. I saw how foreigners watch themselves, watch their mouth, watch their actions while in China. But being in Africa, I see every time foreigners going to Africa and not giving a you know what about the African people or the African government. The foreigners come to Africa and they basically just talk a bunch of nonsense about the African government, the African system, the people, the culture of the society, without thinking in any way that they as guests must respect their host. They do not think in any way that they have to respect their host. And the people to the greater extent will allow this to happen. They will not even challenge the foreigners. I know things are changing now in Africa because our generation, we refuse to be humiliated, and we refuse to allow the destructions that have happened in countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone to continue to spread. But we still have more to do. And I know that are cases in South Africa, for example. And South Africa is one such unique case where, quote unquote, apartheid was eliminated. Nah, apartheid was eliminated in terms of the the symbolic aspect of it, the symbolic aspect of white rules, the symbolic aspect of white brutality against blacks in South Africa. But the economic and financial aspect is real, where black people are still poor in South Africa and are restricted in terms of mobility to the various townships. There are cases, there is a famous South African that is a YouTuber. And I've heard many other South Africans that come on YouTube and even give talks in universities and in various institutions where they just talk smack about the South African government. And in cases where even black South Africans would talk about how life was better under apartheid, that is a bad thing. It shows that we as people in Africa and as leaders, the leaders in Africa, the governments, have not done enough to educate the people. And their relationship with the people is so bad to the point where the people are beginning to believe that the life of being denigrated was much more better than their current life. But these same people, if you try to take them back to the days of apartheid or the days when white people just beat the heck out of Africans and do whatever they want to Africa and Africans, they will not want to live in those world in those times. But for some reason, because African leaders and education system have not done enough to educate the people, and they have not done enough to invest in the people and to enable the people to begin to think positively and begin to have purpose in life. So as a result of the leadership and the government not investing in the people, it is easy for both internal and external forces to provide guns and drugs to the young people, to teach them distorted history, and to tell them that they are their own enemies, or their enemies are their brothers and sisters in the other village or in the other towns and cities, or their brothers and sisters in the other tribe or ethnic group. Therefore, they have to go and kill their brothers and sisters and destroy their country to make things right. Which in every cases, after they've destroyed their country, things are never right. And then you have the external forces regenerated, come back, and basically provide the solution to the incompetent government that comes about after the destruction is made. And at the same time, the people, whether we are talking about the victims and those who enacted the crimes, they are all living together without proper education, without employment, and in terms of their PTSD, their psychological and emotional health, they become menace to themselves and menace to society. This is the case throughout Africa. But I am going to end by telling you that we need to engage with our young people. We need to develop and re-alter our education system and provide young Africans with free, affordable, or quality education and provide them with employment. Because with education and with employment, young men will think more about uh, getting into his occupation, finding a job, having time to get a car, get clothes for himself, having time to rest, and most especially, that young man will fantasize about the coming Friday or Saturdays or the coming holidays when he will look good and go and visit some girl that he's liking. And the same thing with the young woman. Young women will begin to uh, young women will begin to fantasize about their occupations, will fantasize about getting paid during the next Friday and going out and meeting their boyfriend and having a good time. When we can provide education, employment, and purpose, positive purpose for our people, we will make society better for our people and for every individual. I am going to end here. Thank you very much for watching The Echoing Voice. Peace.